Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. The movie begins with a pregnant woman sent into a hospital's emergency room in 1967. The paramedics said she was attacked by an unknown animal. She received medical treatments but did not make it. Fortunately, her baby was born and survived. Years later, two young people, a man and a woman, are having a night out. They go to a secret rave club, and while enjoying the music, the man notices blood spilling from the fire sprinklers. He then realizes that the partygoers are vampires who need to satisfy their bloodthirst. However, the party is disrupted by the appearance of Blade, a vampire hunter. He comes prepared and attacks any vampire who dares to fight him, while the rest scramble away. He recognizes one of his attackers, named Quinn, and sets him on fire before he leaves. The paramedics and firefighters arrive and take Quinn's heavily damaged body. At the hospital, Karen, a hematologist, and her co-worker, Dr. Curtis, are examining Quinn's dead body. Karen finds an abnormality in his blood cells. While checking the corpse, Quinn suddenly comes back alive and instantly bites them both before escaping. Blade arrives at the scene, originally aiming to capture Quinn, but he remembers his dying mother while seeing Karen, so he decides to rescue her. They escape the cops, then he brings her to his crib, where his co-worker, Whistler, injects her with garlic essence. She has been bitten, so it will only be a matter of time before she is turned into a vampire. Meanwhile, the vampires are having a council meeting. The elder vampires are raising concern over the recent attack by Blade on a rave club owned by Deacon Frost, a human-turned-vampire. They believe vampires can survive by blending in with humans, making back-alley treaties, and staying out of trouble, while Frost believes they are destined to be a far superior species to humans and intends to wage a war between vampires and humans. The other vampires look down upon him because he is not a pure-blood vampire, but Frost insists on his plan. Karen wakes up, eavesdropping on Blade and Whistler's conversations about her. She observes Whistler injecting Blade with an increased dose of a serum, which gives Blade a strong reaction that he must be restrained. Then they prepare to move. Realizing that Karen is awake, they explain to her that they are in the middle of a secret war between humans and vampires, which sometimes, accidentally, involves innocent people like her. She has been marked by the bite and some vampires will eventually come for her, so they suggest she get out of town if she wants to stay safe. Whistler also reminds her to buy a gun and watch for signs of turning into a vampire, such as intolerance to sunlight exposure and excessive thirst. On the other hand, Frost seems busy deciphering ancient vampire texts that he trespasses into a sacred archives room. Blade drives Karen to her apartment. When taking the elevator, she notices people near her bearing similar tattoos on their necks. Afraid that they are after her, she quickly walks to her apartment door, then immediately gets in. However, she leaves the door open, causing a seemingly casual police officer, Krieger, claiming to be on his routine check, to check on her. While they converse, Karen notices something is off, then Krieger attempts to attack her. She defends herself using the garlic essence, to which Krieger is confused because he is not a vampire. Blade appears and defeats Krieger instantly, explaining to Karen that Krieger is a familiar, human loyal to the vampires. Karen realizes Blade sets her as bait to lure the vampires. Krieger escapes, then Blade attempts to chase after him. Karen decides to stay with Blade, realizing he can keep her safe. They discover a nearby vampire safe house and make their way in. This time, they encounter Krieger again. He shows them a secret entrance to an archives room before reporting back to Frost, who is throwing a party. Frost deems him useless and attacks him, then orders Quinn and his men to catch Blade. There, Blade and Karen meet Pearl, the keeper of the archives, and torture him using UV lights to make him explain a prophecy. It says that the spirits of the 12 will wake the blood god of La Magra and that Blade plays an important part in fulfilling the prophecy. While looking around the archive room, Blade notices someone has been following them, which turns out to be newly healed Quinn and his henchmen. He and Karen barely escape to the underground subway tunnels, defeating some of the vampires in the process. After making sure they are safe, Blade injects himself with his serum that suppresses his bloodthirst. Karen deduces that he is a vampire too. Whistler explains that he took care of Blade, whose mother died at birth after getting attacked by a vampire. The attack gave Blade a vampire's super strength and bloodthirst, but because he is also human, he does not inherit a vampire's weakness to garlic and silver. He also does not age slowly like typical vampires. Frost and his men execute Dragonetti, one of the pure-blood vampire elders, by exposing him to sunrise. They take out his fangs and present them to the vampire council meeting, forcing other elders to obey them. Blade gives Whistler a piece of the ancient text from the archives room to help him deduce Frost's plan. Meanwhile, Karen borrows some equipment from the hospital to conduct her blood research, aiming to find a cure for Blade. She introduces them to Edta, a compound usually used for treating blood clots. She tries mixing it with a vampire blood sample and it explodes, which can be used as a great weapon against them. Proud of her findings, she takes a sample of Blade's blood and continues working to find a cure. She notices Whistler keeps coughing, to which Blade replies that he has cancer. Whistler, on the other hand, notices Karen's bite marks and tells her that she only has at least 2 days before fully transforming into a vampire. Blade goes outside and meets with Frost at the park. He invites Blade to join him, convincing him that he would not be received by humankind because of his mixed origins. Blade refuses, which causes Frost to be angry. Turns out, he heads to Whistler and Karen's hideout. Karen just discovers a cure for herself, but it does not give the same effect on Blade's blood sample. They are surprised by Frost's ambush. Frost tortures Whistler and abducts Karen, then leaves. When Blade arrives, he finds Whistler severely injured. Whistler explains that Blade's blood is the key piece that Frost needs to complete his ritual of summoning La Magra and start a vampire apocalypse. He forbids Blade to chase after Frost again, but Blade refuses. Then, realizing his wounds are too damaged, Whistler asks for Blade's gun so he can commit suicide before turning into a vampire. Then, he prepares for an ambush on Frost's base and packs Karen's Edta serums as one of his weapons. Frost brings Karen to his lavish penthouse and explains to her that he believes vampires are the superior race on the planet. Blade intrudes Frost's base and defeats several of his men. He learns that Karen's serums work as the vampires he injects them with eventually explode. When entering Frost's bedroom, he learns that his mother is still alive. She looks young and undamaged, even embraces her new identity as a vampire. Frost appears and hurts him from behind, exclaiming that he was the vampire who bit his mother years ago, the vampire that Blade has been looking for all his life. He throws Blade into a dungeon with Karen. When the ritual is about to begin at the Temple of Eternal Night, they are separated. Blade is taken by his mother to a cage where his blood will be drained to supply the ritual, while Karen is taken to a cell. There, she discovers that her past co-worker, Curtis, survived the vampire attack, but he is now transformed into a zombie-like creature. She outsmarts him and escapes from the cell, then quickly heads to find Blade. Frost has gathered the pureblood vampire elders as his 12 sacrifices for the La Magra ritual. Blade's blood spills through the wall, then trickles into each of the sacrifices' foreheads. Then, the sacrifices' lives are drained away while Frost starts to gain the full power of the blood god. Karen finds Blade and frees him, who is in a very weak condition. She deduces he will die by his lack of blood and suggests he bites her to consume some of her blood and regain his strength. He does it and his super strength is restored. Then, he encounters his mother and defeats her. He continues defeating Frost's henchmen one by one until only Frost remains, challenging him to a duel. Blade learns that Frost cannot be defeated by weapons, as he can easily regenerate his body and sustain any damage. He notices his Edta serums being stuck in the temple walls and aims to loosen them. Frost thinks Blade wants the serum to enhance his strength, but he attacks Frost with all those syringes. The overdose of Edta causes Frost's body to inflate and eventually explode. Blade picks Karen up and they escape from the temple. Karen explains that she can continue working to find a cure for Blade, but Blade is concerned that his war against vampires is not yet over. He proposes she work on a better serum instead, that he can use against evil vampires. Sometime later, he intercepts a brief vampire attack in Moscow. Thanks for watching.